And in my experience with a couple of different therapists, my sessions always left me feeling much more emotionally unregulated and volatile than centered. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Heidi Vega, a certified holistic nutritionist and certified personal trainer. On this channel, I bring you guys along with me through my recovery from disordered eating. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys why I think therapy wasn't helpful for me and why others may have difficulty using therapy as a way to recover from disordered eating or a more serious eating disorder. This is going to sound harsh, but simply put, my therapist wasn't very good. Now hear me out. In the realm of therapy and psychology, just like in any other industry, there are going to be people who aren't necessarily trained for the job that they take on. I think that in many ways, a therapist has their list of modalities that they work with. So CBT, aka cognitive behavioral therapy, IPT, maybe somatic work, things like that, right? And they have their resume. But if you know, if you've ever been in the market for a therapist, you know that it all can seem very overwhelming. And so sometimes you just kind of go with whichever one pops first or whichever one seems like a good candidate. And you may tell them a little bit about your issues, why you're seeking therapy, but they don't always know exactly what they're taking on as their client, because humans are so complex, and the work of therapy is the work of the human condition. It is emotion, trauma, thought processes. You're kind of taking on a person as a job, and sometimes you may not be trained for that job. Opening the doors to someone's unconscious and their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, a lot of repressed emotions too, seem to require a type of precise perception of what's going on, or maybe what that person might need. And a number of therapists can lack that. And in my experience with a couple of different therapists, my sessions always left me feeling much more emotionally unregulated and volatile than centered. So it was almost like, if I were to put an example to it, if I had a gunshot wound and the bullet is still inside of me, yes, we need to get the bullet out. And the therapist says, I can see kind of where the bullet is and try to get it out. And because they're not very well trained in this particular situation, they kind of just start trying to poke around in there and see if it can get out by their methods of poking around, not knowing that they might be doing a lot more harm, even while they might be opening the view of the bullet better. It might not actually be the most efficient, effective way to get it out. And I don't know why I came up with a bullet wound, but that's what came to mind. They will still try methodologies that sound correct, or at one point in their training was taught to them to be the most effective. Now that's where we get into the more interesting part of this. But before I go on, come here a second. I believe seeking professional help is valid. I cannot stress that enough. However, currently, CBT and IPT are the treatments most often used in cases of disordered eating, CBT being the most common. It often receives a ton of praise by researchers, but in practice, it's not seemingly as effective as the numbers would suggest. The issue I take with cognitive behavioral therapy in particular is that it is used because there is a widely held belief amongst mental health care professionals that deal with disordered eating or eating disorders in particular, that believe that an eating disorder is simply a thought pattern disorder, meaning that the influence that biology plays and things like an unregulated nervous system plays, all of those factors are just kind of thrown out the window. Methods like somatic therapy and the attention to people who are neurodivergent isn't taken into account when you apply CBT as a treatment, or even IPT as a treatment. Now, why does CBT get so much praise then, you might ask? Well, it's because CBT is the easiest type of treatment to fund for larger scale studies, because it's fundamentally a structured and manualized approach. And if you know anything about eating disorders, you know that a one-size-fits-all rarely works in the long run in terms of recovery from disordered eating or an eating disorder. Now, this video is not meant to knock the work of therapists or psychologists or even the people studying different methodologies for treating eating disorders. I honestly wanted to give space and name that it's okay if you have done therapy or are currently in therapy and are still struggling with an eating disorder, and that it hasn't necessarily helped. It's really easy to feel like there's something inherently wrong with you or that you are broken if you are being treated by a mental health care professional, a therapist, and you still aren't seeing a difference in your eating disorder patterns. I think that sometimes therapy can be wonderful, but I also think that it's still people working with other people, and we are human. We can err in times, and sometimes the methodologies that a therapist can come at you with to help you with an eating disorder could be outdated, could be a misled information that they got from their training. I think there's a lot of new information coming out, and if you're not becoming actualized in that information, it can be really easy as a therapist to treat an eating disorder with CBT and think that that should be enough. I think that's where I'm going to leave today's video. If you guys have any questions, comments, you can always leave them down below. And I am going to reference some of the things that I was speaking about in the description if you guys want to look further into CBT and just kind of what has been coming to light in terms of how effective it actually is in treating eating disorders. I like to see that there is some shift. I mean, the fact that there's conversations like this where we're pointing to like, hey, maybe actually this methodology isn't the best one, is wonderful. It means that people are pushing that envelope, people are speaking up, speaking about their stories, and kind of giving light to something that for a lot of us is a shameful experience and can feel very, like I said, isolating, and oftentimes we keep it on the down low, we keep it quiet. Just finding others like myself that are making videos online, talking about their eating disorders, talking about recovery is, I think, a step in the right direction. It means that we are bringing light to a issue that actually affects, I think, a lot more people than we are made to believe. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you're notified every time I upload. Normally Tuesday or Wednesdays are my upload days, and I will catch you guys on the next one.